All right, Miss Meg. Well, first of all, I do appreciate you giving me time today. Obviously, starting off this week, a big week. Averett making the move officially from the USA South to the ODAC. You've been athletic director at Averett for nearly a decade. Just talk about just the importance of this move and just just making this move because now apparently you're with teams that are closer than with the USA South as far as distance and rivalries and all.
We are. It's crazy to think I've been here almost a decade. But I think what's fun, both for the president and myself, is this is something we've talked about for a long time. We have talked about the ODAC. Obviously, the ODAC is so well renowned and respected, especially amongst Division III and our local community and our Virginia and North Carolina community. They know the ODAC and know it well. So we're so excited. We're so thrilled. And at the same time, we've been recognizing our history. 40 years in the USA South and such a great experience with them. But we really think it's a new era. It's a new time for Averett, and it's a new time for Averett athletics. So we are really excited about the move.
When you look at it, the USA South Conference, I mean, you said you guys have 40 years of history. Uh, when you look at obviously making the move, you said that this was looked at moving to the ODAC. When was really the engine starting to go to say, okay, we're looking at seriously considering leaving USA South and going to the ODAC?
So I think it's right. It's like college sports these days. It's an evolution. Things kind of go in and out of favor over time. But it's always kind of in the back of your head. You're always kind of aware. Obviously, for us, and everybody's like, oh, you're playing all new teams. Well, no, not really. In fact, we've been playing these teams and have relationships with these universities. We just happened to play them on the front end of our season and then got into conference play. And what we're going to do now is flip flop it. I don't think there was just one moment where we decided, but we did get that phone call over a year ago with the invite to join the ODAC, and we were really excited about that. So it's kind of been in the back of our minds and talked about over many years. But right now at this time, it came to fruition, and it was the right time for us to make that decision, not just athletically, but as an institution.
When you look at it and from a coverage standpoint, it's kind of interesting how, when I first started here, Ferrum and Averett, they were both in USA South, and Ferrum made the move to the ODAC. And I was always thinking, well, it's just got to be a matter of time for Averett to make the move, and now, and like you said before, I mean, Averett has always played, Roanoke or Lynchburg or all these teams in our area in the ODAC. So I'm sure it's going to develop now. It's a conference game versus non-conference.
You got it. I think it will just continue and extend some of those rivalries and even enjoy some new rivalries. And actually, even this interview is piece of it. I mean, for that coverage and for folks to now know and associate Averett with some of those universities, and that we're now rivals or we're playing. I mean, that should join in our local sports and our sports fans in the area and the folks that are watching you that really put Averett right in that mix. We have positioned ourselves. We've grown from 13 sports to 24. In my time here, we are continually growing. We're continually adding. And that really did put us in the right position to be surrounded by other conference institutions that are looking to do the right thing. And we're really poised to go to that next level. So it's exciting for us.
And again, I know you're not diminishing, the USA South. It's a great conference. I mean, they do great stuff there. But it was kind of tough when you look at the league because a lot of the teams you played weren't close by. You had to go to Alabama, you had to go to Tennessee, you had to go, throughout North Carolina. Whereas the ODAC, okay, I can drive up, go to Ferrum real quick, or go to Roanoke, or go to all these other schools. But just talk about from a travel standpoint, how tough was it in USA South, and just how much better things are going to be in the ODAC?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a piece of the puzzle. I can't say enough about, enough positive things about our colleagues in the USA South. We had such a great relationship, and we'll continue to, from the commissioner to all of the directors of athletics I've worked with, I'm sure to the presidents our president has worked with. Those relationships will continue. The Methodist AD and I talked just the other day. You know, those relationships were strong, and they will continue to remain strong. I will say travel is definitely a piece of a major puzzle. The USA South, we've watched that conference really ebb and flow, even in my time, you know, growing and then shrinking and then growing and then dividing into two, right? And it's just some different pieces. But I will say, when you ask some of our student athletes about a 12-hour bus ride versus a 4.5-hour bus ride, those are two very different things. I think our local student athletes especially are really excited about being able to have more friends and family, be able to see them on the road, and to be able to watch them play. I do think that footprint is definitely a footprint that's very, very appealing to us from a logistics standpoint, from a travel standpoint, and then just kind of from that homegrown and rivalry standpoint.
You know, one neat thing is, and I believe the ODAC might be the only one that does this, and I'm looking at it from a basketball standpoint. The ODAC is the only conference, I believe, that has their basketball tournament. You know, like the first round is at home, but you move the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals to a neutral site playing in the Salem Civic Center. And obviously, Averett men, I mean, they won the conference tournament, but it still has to be neat to go to a neutral site and compete for a championship like some of the other big conferences. I know when I spoke with Ferrum, when they moved to the ODAC, one thing they said they were excited about was playing in the basketball tournament instead of the Civic Center. I'm sure it's going to be the same for Averett when that time comes.
Yeah, I think all of the USA South had some neat traditions, and that they had some sports festivals, which were very unique to Division III and really some kind of unique things. So I think anytime you switch conferences, you get something new. And I think anytime it's new, and especially when you're working with 18 to 22-year-olds, new is always good. New is exciting and different. The opportunity, for example, for basketball to be able to play in the Salem Civic Center is great. But for a number of our teams and championship opportunities, for those to be different types of opportunities and new opportunities for them, I think it's great across the board for all 500 of our student athletes, for all of our sports. Really an awesome opportunity for them to be able to compete at a championship level with great competition.
You kind of answered my question, my second question, but I'll ask it again.
Sorry.
In this regard. No, you're fine. No, I was just, no, you kind of, hey, maybe I can get more out of this part. So, because by the way, Miss Meg, you're awesome again. I appreciate you giving me time.
No, I appreciate the coverage. Just so you know, this is one of those things too, where I want to be in the mix. I want Averett to be in that mix, and I want to be talked about. So I'm thrilled you took the time. I really do appreciate.
Oh, no problemo. Anytime, we got you all the time. Now, well, there's a second question. I'll ask this later, but overall, and this might even sound like a dumb question, but when you look at Averett, and to me, like I said, for years, I always felt that Averett and Ferrum should have always been in ODAC. But again, that's Jermaine Farrell's opinion, because from a coverage standpoint, it's tricky to get down to Danville, but we will go down there. Obviously, we have been before. But, when you look at Averett, as far as how it stacks up in, say, the ODAC, because like I said, all the schools in the ODAC are tremendous. And when you look at, for us, for example, I mean, we have in our area, in our DMA, we cover 8 Division III programs, and we count Averett in Southern Virginia. So how do you feel you guys stack up overall? I mean, and I'm not saying, hey, we are the greatest sliced bread, however you want to say it, you could say it. But how do you feel Averett, when you look at the mix of all the teams in the ODAC, how do you feel that Averett would fit in and stack when it compares to not only academics but athletics?
I think we fit in very, very well, both academically and athletically. Obviously, to each program its own, right? Different programs will slide in at different places within that mix, and that just it depends on the sport. But I also think it depends, as we watch most teams, they ebb and flow throughout the years, in terms of kind of what it's going to look like. But we've really started to build our athletics programs here over the last 9 years. We had a wonderful history prior to my arrival. We've continued to build on that. Yes, we've added some new programs, but we've also added some new programs that have become very successful very quickly. And I think we'll continue to say it is to be the best, you have to play the best. And our coaches are excited for that opportunity. I'm excited for that opportunity. We're going in there and we want to be competitive. I want to be in championships. Our vision statement will remain the same. And that's one of the questions I've gotten. Our vision's been very clear since I arrived. It's 3, 2, 1, 3.0s in the classroom. We are here to be student athletes and we want B's or better. 2 is top 2 in the conference. I'm here to win. I'm here to win championships. I haven't, for me, it's not recreation. It's not intramurals. We have a scoreboard. I want to be in championships. And I think that's a piece of it. And 1 is 1 team. And I think what you've got is a united athletics department. And I think that's unique these days. All of our teams, all of our coaches, all of our student athletes are in, and they're all in. And that is really exciting. They're celebrating each other's successes. And to have an athletics department that's headed in the right direction is really excited. And I think that's what it takes to really take that step and really make it more exciting to be in the ODAC.
Yeah, one of the sports, you don't have as many teams playing, but obviously you guys are going to really help is football. I mean, just talk about that aspect of it, because now, I mean, like in our area, it's Washington Lee, it's Ferrum, and you guys that are going to be playing football in the ODAC. So just talk about just the value of that, because, the ODAC membership as far as football is concerned has kind of gone up and down with teams leaving and doing various things. But just talk about that aspect of it, because that is kind of like football kind of sets the tone, starts off in the fall. Not that the other sports aren't any important, but that football piece is real big.
Right. I mean, obviously that football, and we've always talked about football. Football is a piece of the puzzle. And we do talk about being one team. We do talk about equity quite a bit, but there's no doubt, football can draw crowds. We've been averaging 2,000, 2,500 and upwards of 3,000 at homecoming. We want to continue that. We actually think that this will help. That's part of that student athlete experience. It's not about fans. At the Division III level, it is about that student athlete experience. But when you can draw 2,500 to 3,000 to a game, that's great for those student athletes who are on the field. That's also great for the student athletes and those that are at the institution. There's no doubt playing closer competition and playing some of those institutions that you mentioned brings with it new rivalries. It brings with it more fans. Very honestly, right? When you're playing an institution that's not driving in 12 hours, you're gonna have a higher fan base, and you're gonna be able to create those new rivalries. So there's no doubt we are excited to make the football transition, as we are the other sports as well. But we are excited about what that could do and what that does to continue to enhance. And then for folks that haven't seen the new Averett, that haven't been and seen the stadium, that haven't, have you seen us lately? Continues to be something that I continue to say. If that draws new people into Campbell Stadium and really seeing what Averett has going on these days, that's a wonderful opportunity for us. That's a wonderful opportunity for Averett, but that's a wonderful opportunity for Danville.
And then obviously your rivalry, it's kind of unique. Ferrum is obviously the closer school, so I think the Ferrum Averett is a rivalry there. Obviously, it was a conference matchup. Both teams were in Conference USA. Then it was non-conference when Ferrum went to the ODAC. Now it's back to a conference where you're looking at the ODAC. And Ferrum and Averett, they both have the same sports. How neat is it now that this rivalry is going to go back to being a conference rivalry?
It's a healthy rivalry, and I'm excited about it. Obviously, I know the director of athletics well. Our coaches know each other well. It was a rivalry either way, to be point blank. In conference, out of conference, doesn't matter. When somebody's an hour away and you've got the history we do, it's a rivalry game for all of our teams. I'm sure it's one of those they circle on all the matchups in all locker rooms on both sides. For it to go back to a conference matchup, great opportunity, continues to kind of build the hype up to those games, and nice to get that back to an in-conference game.
Now, obviously, with conference realignment, there's a lot of stuff going on with conference realignment. I mean, it's kind of like, oh, by the way, Averett joined the ODAC, but it's kind of like, yeah, and not that we forgot, because the big boys are talking about this, but from your perspective, how does this change the landscape? And I know it's Division 1, and these conference teams are moving around and doing all these other things, but just from a college standpoint, from an AD standpoint, when you look at the craziness of what's going at the D1 level, just your thoughts about that, because I know that it's just every day it's something new, and then there's so many unknowns, and everybody's trying to scramble. It's kind of like musical chairs. You don't want to be one without a seat when the music stops. But from
Yep.
your perspective, how crazy and maddening is it?
Um, I am very proud to be a director of athletics at the Division 3 level. I think that philosophically for me, and I talk about this a lot, it's the right fit for me. It's the right fit for our coaches. It's the right fit for our student athletes. It's not better or worse. It's just different. It's philosophically different. I still think we have the right thing at the forefront, and that's being a student. Sometimes folks forget Division 3 is the largest division. The most number of student athletes will graduate from Division 3 institutions. I think they see a lot of things on ESPN and right, and about the kind of, you know, the Power Five and some other things, and kind of assume that's how it is. And that's not necessarily how it is for the majority. I think that you watch Division 3 institutions these days making decisions that are trying to align themselves what's best for the institution and for the athletics department. And they're thinking about the right things. Watching some of those conference realignments at the Division 1 level, which I try to steer a little bit clear of, sometimes it's hard to watch some of those things and just kind of question, well, why? And really, what will that student athlete experience be? And our, you know, in classes and the academic side and the athletic side, it's really, do we have our core values right? And then our where are we? And I think that's up to each institution, but it is divisional, and folks have to decide what's the right fit for them. I'm very happy to be at Averett. I'm very happy to be in the ODAC and a member of the USA, you know, and as a previous member of the USA South, and to be surrounded by institutions that I think philosophically, right now in a time where things are a little bit crazy, I think it's nice to be philosophically grounded in what's the most important thing. And they're raising leaders of the future. It's true sport for sport. Our kids are getting scholarships, but they're academic or they're need-based, and they're playing the sport that they love. And that's an incredible thing. I love to be a part of that, and I love to represent them.
Good deal. Good deal. And I guess one of my final questions for you, Miss Meg, is um, when you look at your time, I mean, again, 10 years at Averett, and again, the time that you spent in the USA South, 40 years, I mean, is there one moment that stands out to you, or moments that stand out to you during your time as a member of USA South while you were there?
I don't think there's one that captures the experience that we had. The USA South for us, you know, as it changed and developed, and even in my time during it, it just brought together such great relationships between student athletes, between coaches, between directors of athletics, and I think, you know, continuing to be within presidents. I don't think there's one moment that can just do that, but between championship play or rivalry games, those are really healthy, good relationships. And, you know, it could be a community service activity that we did together or participated in. You know, there's not one that just stands out. I will absolutely give credit where credit is due, though. If you have the opportunity, or others have the opportunity to show, you know, Drew Wilson, our director of sports communications, put out 2 videos this past week, and one was celebrating our time in the USA South. It really talks about all that 40 years of history brought us. And the other is really talking about what's new and what will be coming for the ODAC. I think he did a really nice job highlighting all of those pieces that we really enjoyed our time, and truthfully continue to plan on, you know, working through those relationships and continuing those relationships with those institutions.
So I guess another question is, do we have permission to use video for the story and maybe post both of those videos to our web story?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. They are some of Drew's best, in my opinion. Drew Wilson rocked it. Those videos are awesome. And, you know, the ODAC one, it tells you where we are, it highlights it. And in the USA South for me is a really nice highlight to, what we felt was really important. We want to show our history and our past. And again, it's not better or worse. It's just different. And we wanted to be really clear about that and show the USA South some love as we make that transition.
You mentioned something interesting. When a team leaves a conference, like if this was, like I said, Division One, there's a lot of bitterness and there's a lot of hate. But when it comes down to this level, there's not a lot of bitterness. Like you mentioned before, I mean, you're kind of flip-flopping things because probably a lot of your non-conference games are going to be against teams that you played in USA South, and now your ODAC teams that you play are conference games. It just seems like, and not to beat a dead horse, it seems like when a team leaves a conference at the D3 level, there's not this hatred or animosity, but it seems like it's that level at the Division One level. How special is it, and how important is it to maintain these relationships with your former Conference USA members? Because it seems like you still have a great relationship. There's no ill will for you leaving Conference USA and going to the ODAC.
Yeah, absolutely not. I think you hit it on the head. Obviously, I have not had that Division One experience, so I don't have anything to compare it to. But for me, it's such collegiality. It's such that's so important in our work, right? So many times we're working with 18 to 21-year-olds, and sometimes it's nice to be able to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, what would you do?" And I think that I've gotten just as many text messages and phone calls from ODAC athletic directors that I have from USA South. And we're going to continue that relationship. I think that is one of the things that makes it so great. And I'm not saying that's just at our level, but it's relationships, right? The long and the short of our jobs is, I think people think that it's business, and in reality, it's relationships, it's students, it's people. Our business is people. And I think that it's been so nice to develop those relationships and then have such, really friendships, to be able to find those folks on a sideline, to be able to go to another institution and spend time with them and really talk about, hey, what's new? How are you working through this? So many of us have the same types of things that we're now working through, of kind of the new reality of whether it's college sports or just small Division III private college campuses these days. And to be able to just work with colleagues, no matter what the logo is, whether it's an ODAC logo or a USA South logo, the fact that you have somebody else to turn to and talk to about it is really, really important. It's a big part of what we do.
It just seems like at the Division One level, it's all about a business. At the Division III level, it's basically just having fun. And you obviously, like you said earlier, hey, I want to win, and I can see in your eyes, hey, I want a championship. But it just seems like it's almost refreshing when I cover, a Averett, a Ferrum, a Roanoke, a Lynchburg, Hollins, Washington Lee. You can just tell, hey, to me, there's no difference in the spirit. Everybody wants to win. It doesn't matter if it's Virginia Tech or Virginia or Averett. You can just tell the coaches want to win, the players want to win. It doesn't matter what division it is. Everybody wants to win, and their ultimate goal, obviously, win a national championship in your sport. But there's still a hunger to win. And I can even see that with you. It's not like, oh, well, I'm an athletic director. We're just Division III. It doesn't matter. I can just tell there's a drive and a passion to have success.
There is. It's about competition. And I think far too often, I think in the recruiting process, I think, unfortunately, maybe the piece where either media or even just talking to friends have gone is, you got to go D1 or you got to go D2 or you got to get a ride to go someplace or to be number 40 on a roster of 41. When you can come and just find the institution that's the right fit for you. And then if athletics is a piece of that puzzle, that's a really great piece. We're lucky to have student athletes that had multiple options at multiple divisions, but Averett was the right fit for them. And the same thing coaching wise. Our coaches have their choice. They found the right fit. It's the right institution. And I think that's so important these days that folks continue to hear that that's really what it's about. It's not as much maybe about the logo or about what you want to tell your friends. It's about finding the right institution that's the right fit for you. And that you're going to find that experience a really rewarding one.
And you don't see a lot of coaching turnover at the Division III level, because I think you got coaches that'll stay at a place for decades, because like you mentioned, it's what they want to do. But next time we meet, bring the snacks. When we meet in person, we'll have
I would
snacks.
love that.
Bring the snacks.
But right, our coaches, it is any opportunity I can give to shout out our coaches. Our coaches probably aren't going to be on ESPN. They're not going to make $1 million. They're not going to be, they are here because they want to change young people's lives, right? They are here for 18 to 22-year-olds. And yeah, they're going to win some games and they're competitive, but really they're raising our young people. They're creating leaders. They're teaching teamwork. They're teaching discipline. These are our future teachers and doctors and whatever it is they're going to go on to do. Their collegiate athletic experience will help them do it better. And that's what our coaches are doing. And I'm just so proud of what they've done at Averett. We could not do what we've done without the right coaches around the table to help us get to where we've got.
That's true. So your actual title is Vice President Director. You're the AD, but you the VP.
I am. I've taken on some additional responsibility in the past few years.
Not for more money, right?
We are classically a small Division III institution that is right. How can you continue to help the institution? I actually found some different passions that I really enjoyed, and was lucky enough to have a wonderful administrative team around me in athletics, where we've kind of got the machine up and running. So the ability to help on the operations side with facilities, with the bookstore, with dining. Our student athlete population is 50% of the student population here at Averett. And so really, if you can make a difference in some of those operational areas, you're making a difference for the entire institution, and that will also in turn make the student athlete experience better. That's an awesome opportunity. That's really, really great.
One other side note, I did, when I looked you up a little bit, I noticed that lacrosse is your sport. You were a women's lacrosse coach. And obviously,
much to my women's lacrosse's coach's dismay.
What's that now?
Much to my women's lacrosse's coach's dismay, I'm sure.
Looking over the shoulder, like, okay, all right. But you got to think, you're joining a strong women's lacrosse conference in the ODAC. I mean, look at the teams. It's probably gonna be neat to see your teams get in the mix. I know I shouldn't isolate certain sports, but that's a fun conference when it comes to women's lacrosse. So it's going to be neat to see Averett stack up against all the teams that play women's lacrosse.
We're excited about that. We did just have some turnover within our women's lacrosse staff, and our timing is perfect. I actually met with our new head women's lacrosse coach, who I've had the opportunity to get to know as our assistant for over 5 years. She is ready. She is able, and we have talked extensively about the transition to the ODAC. I loved when she came in. She had the exact same thoughts I did, and she's as excited as others about making that transition, but also knows what it will take in a very strong lacrosse conference.
I know you're an AD, but I still love calling former coaches the ADs. I love calling them coach. So if I slip up by calling you coach, please apologize for that. But
no problem. No problem at all. In fact, I'm just fine with that. I think once you're a coach, you're always a coach. I just, for me, all I did was I changed from coaching 24 young women to now I coach 60 coaches. And if I coach coaches, then our student athletes will have a great experience. And that should be what my role is.
Well, coach / AD / VP / everything else that they're throwing at
other duties as a side.
That's right. Yeah. When you look at the job description, other duties without any more money, right?
Hey, we all do it because we absolutely love what we do. I did not take the job either to be on ESPN or to make $1 million.
Yeah, just to be on WFXR.
Hey, I'll take it. I'm in. You're speaking my language.
There you go.
I want no part of Sandy Barber's job or any of that. So I'm good.
Good deal. Well, I really appreciate you giving me time today, Miss Meg. You're awesome. Meg Stevens, athletic director at Averett, is this week Averett made it official. It's official. It's not social media official. It's official. They are a member of the ODAC after 40 years of being in USA South. Again, congratulations and best of luck in the ODAC, ma'am.
Thank you so much. We hope to see you, your crew, and all those fans out there at games.